Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to One Hub Racing. Hope you enjoyed the charity race last week. Luke and Liam are bringing you action once again from the podium tier, and we have decided to stay safely in the commentary box and not venture into the cockpit for this week. We're into the second half of the season, and it is starting tonight at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. It's round 6 out of 10 of season 15 in the podium tier, and it is the Canadian Grand Prix. And Liam, this is definitely a fantastic circuit and should prove to provide lots of brilliant action.
Oh, I completely agree with you there. This is absolutely a driver favourite amongst almost every driver in the F1 community. Who doesn't love around Canada? Some of these the track possesses a unique challenge through the first two sectors and then really opens up in the final sector with the Wall of Champions as that final challenge to determine if you get a good lap in or not. I think it's going to be an absolutely brilliant race this afternoon. I hope I'm not disappointed, but I've got high hopes for this evening.
Yeah, a lot of the drivers in the pre-race interview said they were looking forward to this race. I do believe there will be plenty of action. The places on track where the stewards have said to watch out for, turn 1 and 2 especially on lap 1 is very awkward, even more so with the pit exit coming out, throwing you nearly onto the racing line at the exit of turn 2. You've also got turn 8, the chicane as you're heading after the first DRS zone on this circuit. Turn 10, the hairpin, and then as Liam mentioned, turn 13 and 14, ending with that Wall of Champions. And Stevie Hart has said that he has a history with that wall. He'll be hoping to stay well away from that tonight. If you weren't with us a fortnight ago for the Singapore Grand Prix, it was a dominant victory from Chris for his second win in a row for Red Bull. Absolutely fantastic drive from him in very changeable conditions. The race started off dry, went on to intermediates, was even for a lap or two full wet tyres were probably the best before ending dry again. It was a great job from him, and that has really closed him up in the championship now behind Ivahanen, who did not finish last week. Jonas took his third podium of the season, his best finish of the season so far as well, with second place, and TC continued his good form at the moment to finish in third place. What that means is the podium tier is looking so close at the moment. In precision, it's 32 points the gap. In the pinnacle tier, we've got a gap of 38 points between the top two drivers. In podium, the top 5 drivers are currently separated by 30 points. And with the form that some of the different drivers have been in, it's anyone's guess at the moment, Liam, who's going to be champion.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think we were very wrong at the start of the season when we were saying it was going to be Ivahanen's championship to lose. But Chris has put on, and Jonas as well, have put on absolutely amazing performances in the past 2 or 3 weeks just to close up that gap, showing that Ivahanen isn't exactly as dominant as we thought.
Yeah, last week didn't really go well for him at all. Austria as well didn't have the best qualifying, made his way back up through the field in the race but could only finish in 5th, and especially after such a dominant start, getting 77 points out of a possible 78 in the first 3 races was incredible. Chris has sort of done the opposite, 1 point in the first 2 races, a superb drive in China coming from, I think it was 13th on the grid to finish in second. Powell win fastest lap in the last 2 races. He's really been up there, but Jonas, Astronauti and Nicky, despite not winning a race, they've been very consistent and have always tend to be near the front of the field.
Yeah, it definitely shows consistency is key in one hub, especially in the shorter seasons, as well as the longer seasons. But especially now because you won't have as many races to catch up. And if I'm not mistaken, Chris didn't even set a lap time in qualifying in China, so it just showed how really he's got his head down after the first 2 rounds and pulled off this amazing comeback and could possibly be the favourite to take this championship due to Ivahanen's struggles in the past couple of races. He's been on a bit of a cold streak as well, Ivahanen, as well as indecisive Mac in the Williams. We've got a couple of drivers who've not been on the best of form recently and could use a good result here to pick up the rest of their season.
Yeah, definitely. Indecisive Max says he's happy that he's had a break. He's been able to refresh mentally, and he's hoping to get into the points. His closest was China with an 11th place. We did see a few drivers actually have their best result of the season last time out. Alex Lilliart, the Pinnacle commentator, who you'll be able to hear from at 8:30, he got his first points of the season and the first top 10 finish for the Racing Point team with a 9th place. Catboy Key finishing in 8th. We saw Kingan tie his best result of the season. Dexter finishing in 4th. And both Alfa Romeo drivers have shown really good form at various points throughout the season. It was Riley's best race as well. He got his second driver of the day with a 5th place. And out of that next bunch of drivers, you've got to say the two Alfa Romeos, probably the ones in the best form.
Oh, definitely. Riley and Dexter have been performing very well in the past couple of rounds. Riley's been performing really well since the start of the season, but he's been having to pull off comeback drives almost every week. He's been that one driver who's been unlucky enough to be caught up in that incident every week, and he's had to try and drag his car back through the field.
Yeah, he has been able to do that effectively. One driver who will definitely have to pull off a comeback drive tonight is Truth NRP in the McLaren. He was involved in a collision last time out with Indecisive Mac, which caused great damage to the Williams driver. And as Truth NRP was found to be at fault of that, and he didn't finish the race, he has been awarded a qualifying ban this time out. Hasn't been the greatest start to the season for him. Only 2 points so far with a 9th place in China. It's going to be tough tonight, but as we said, Liam, there's 3 DRS zones around this track. Out of all the circuits on the calendar, it's one of the best for overtaking. Lots of heavy braking zones.
Yeah, definitely. I think you could see a couple of moves into the hairpin just before that back DRS straight, as well as possibly turn 1 as well. People lining up a move down the back straight with them being a bit too far behind to get them into the chicane or get them before that chicane with the Wall of Champions. But obviously it does come with a risk sending it there. You could be possibly one of the many drivers that could be claimed victim by that Wall of Champions.
Yes, Damon Hill, Michael Schumacher, Jack Villeneuve, Ricardo Zonta, Jenson Button, Sebastian Vettel, Juan Pablo Montoya. Every single person who's ever raced around Canada on any game, I imagine, has at some point binned it in that wall, and it was looking beautiful conditions, which I'm sure everyone who raced in the charity race last week would have hoped that it would have looked like this for the entirety of the race.
I'd have to agree with you on that. I'd have to agree with you on that. We did get a taster of the monsoon conditions last week and discovered that it definitely does bring up the safety car.
Yeah, definitely, if it does rain hard enough, but all looking nice. And I was going to say looking nice and good, and then I caught Gazza's comment in the chat that the race looks interesting, and it is dry, heavy rain at 45 minutes, so they might get away with it if it's a clean race. If it's not a clean race, that could be interesting. And also, it does play a really big part in the strategy. All the drivers here in Season 15 at One Hub have to make 2 compulsory pit stops. So you could see a lot of drivers going for a more traditional one-stop strategy and hoping it rains hard enough late enough in the race that they have to put on a set of intermediate or wet tyres and therefore completing the 2 stops.
Yeah, but definitely, but depending on it really just depends on if the rain comes quickly enough. But if it doesn't, the most likely strategy would be most people would be opting for the soft mediums around here, because tyre wear isn't very strict around Canada, but it's not too lenient. You've got that nice balance in between where the softs can go a decent amount of distance and the mediums will last quite a while, so there's really no need to touch those hard tyres unless something goes horribly wrong within the first couple of laps.
Yeah, definitely. It is the 3 softest tyres that Pirelli have at this circuit. There's not really many high-speed corners. It's usually the brakes and the fuel loads that take a bit of a hammering around here just because of the heavy braking and acceleration zones. We'll go on board with last week's winner and the top race premium driver in the championship at the moment, just Chris F1, 16 points at the moment behind Eva Hannon, but he has really closed that gap up over the last 2 weeks. And if you haven't seen his qualifying lap from last time out, I suggest you get it up on his Twitter page. It was absolutely amazing. Quite a few of us thought that the game had glitched in qualifying as we'd seen it done before. He was that much quicker than the rest of the field, but it was all legit. He was just superb pace. There's over drivers waiting. The awkward pit entry that the stewards mentioned can cause some problems. And here we go now, on board with Chris for a hot lap around this circuit. First used in Formula 1 in 1978 and appropriately won that year by Gilles Villeneuve. So he heads now around turn 2. You can just see that pit exit on the left hand side. It's very easy to get it wrong coming out of the pits here and put a wheel on the grass. Downhill into turn 3 and 4, or the Sebastian Vettel chicane, as it may get renamed some point in the future. The long right hander at turn 5, 6 and 7. Here we are now entering the DRS zone, as well as we see a Alfa Romeo of Riley slap bang in the middle of the track. It's not an ideal start to qualifying for him. Turn 8 and 9. May see an overtaking opportunity here in the race, but it's more likely the drivers will just be patient and wait for the hairpin at turn 10. Slowest corner on the circuit, down to first gear. See 40 miles an hour, about 65 kilometres an hour. 11 and 12 are just small kinks, not really a problem as long as you've got the grip in the tyres and in the dry conditions. So he now heads down the straight, and Chris, I believe, has backed off, so he shouldn't have any problems getting it round the wall of champions.
Yeah, he's backed off there, so I think he's not worrying about setting his fastest time for the moment, as I was just trying to wait and see if we've got a glimpse at the weather from our fellow commentator Jess, who is in the racing point. Well,
I'm glad he's just typing weather report and not shouting it this week, but
yeah, if you don't know what that is, I wasn't very happy with my Jeff last week. Let's just say he didn't quite understand my accent, and I got very upset with him.
Yeah, voice recognition and Scottish accent, really any regional accent, let's be honest, doesn't seem to go well together. It's currently a Mercedes 1-2 in the session. Astronauty just pipping his teammate Eva Hanna by 46 thousandths of a second. There's True NRP retiring due to his qualifying ban. They'll be pretty happy with that time. Jonas, though, fastest man on the medium tyres, a 109.5. He definitely looks like he's got pace, as does TC as well, who's just moved up into 5th place.
Here comes Chris up towards the line now. It's going to be a 1 minute 8.0, and that's going to put him a full second clear of both Mercedes cars.
I really hope that everyone else is just relaxing a bit, because that is another ridiculously good lap time. 1 minute 8.045, doing so well around this circuit. No one on here has got a podium on this circuit before. Don't believe in one hub, definitely not last season anyway, where it was Zeppedoodle who took the win, Estimat's in second, and Aaron, who is the only absentee tonight, finishing third. Only one driver in one hub history has ever won more than one race around this circuit, and it was Ermi, who has taken the victory 3 times, but there's been 15 other drivers who have won once around this circuit, and tonight it will be at least 16 drivers taking a first victory, and it looks like Chris is going to be the man. A third of the way through the session, a second lead over the 2 Mercedes of Astronauti and Eva Hannan. Definitely looks like Chris wants to win the championship this year and get his hands on a wheel stand provided by our sponsors Next Level Racing. Feel free to check them out in the description below. I was just mentioning TC before he set that lap. He's been another driver who seems to have found fantastic form. Didn't look amazing at the start of the season, but he's clearly put a bit more practice in. 2 podiums in a row, and he says himself he's sort of disappointed with his bad start because it's just put him probably a bit too far back in the championship. 46 points only behind Eva Hannan, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4. He's currently 6th in the championship, so he's going to have to rely on a few slip-ups if he wants to take the victory.
Yeah, I think it might just have been a lack of confidence at the start of the season, and it's just built over time, especially with those podiums. I think he could possibly push for a race 1 in the latter half of the season. I don't see him getting involved in the title fight, sadly, as he's a bit too far behind. But I'd like to see him up there fighting for a win at some point in the remaining half of the season.
Yeah, definitely. The drivers were asked what their goals were for the rest of the season. TC and his teammate Nicky, who's yet to settle up at the moment, both said that they want to get a win. Dexter wants to get a podium. Catboy Key, currently 10th place on wheel 111.1 on the medium tyres in the Haas. He says he actually fancies his chances. He does enjoy this circuit, and he got his good result before the break, getting his first points, and he'll be happy with that as he drifts his way around turn 7. It's always good once you get your first points in a league. It does give you that confidence to push on for the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely. It was quite hard to forget that outrageous overtake on the final lap at the final corner last time out in Singapore as he went around the outside of the Toro Rosso of Rich, I believe it was, who had a couple of punctures. So yeah, he put on quite a show on the last lap last week. So, and I'm hoping he can carry that good form and good result through to this week.
Yeah, he'll be hoping so as well. Haas definitely will for the Constructors' Championship. Currently only Racing Point behind them. Haas struggling on 9 points at the moment. Racing Point on 3 points, but at the top it is Mercedes with a 49-point lead over Red Bull at the moment. Renault not too far behind Red Bull. And Red Bull could really do with Gaza getting his first podium of the season if they want to take that Constructors' Championship, because we know Gaza's always consistent, always there and about in the points. But I think to challenge him for Constructors, with both Mercedes drivers looking very quick and both Renaults as well, he's going to need to step up his game slightly.
Yeah, definitely. As consistent as he is, Gaza might need to just take it up a bit for the remaining half of the season just to secure himself in that top 10 in the championship.
Yeah, definitely. He did do good enough to keep his seat in the Red Bull. There were no driver changes in this tier. I think there has been a couple in Precision and Pinnacle, and I know they were asked about that in the team's press conference with Mercedes and Red Bull, but no changes here. And one driver who I think will be happy that she's been able to stay in the same team is Jess Gamer 95 in the Racing Point. 1 point so far this season with that fastest lap for those drivers outside the top 10, because at one hub you do get a fastest lap point if you finish in the top 10, and you get one if you're outside as well, so there is always something to fight for. And I can't repeat on stream once again what she said in the press conference about some of the circuits that she's been around. Let's just put it this way, she's not a fan of street circuits, and especially Singapore, although it was great teamwork from her last week because she was in the ear of Alex, and that helped him get his best result of the season.
Yeah, a quick question for you. Would you class this Gilles Villeneuve circuit as a street circuit, or would you class it, or would it be a normal race circuit? Because I've seen people class this as a street circuit.
Well, as far as I'm aware, these are public roads that people can drive down, so that, by the letter of the law, that has to be a street circuit, although it's not your traditional twisty... I was going to say it's not your traditional twisty 90-degree angle, and then I look at the track map and realise there are a lot of chicanes around this circuit.
Yeah.
Technically it is a street circuit, it just doesn't have the same characteristics as one. I suppose a bit like Melbourne's more of a street circuit, but that's another one where it doesn't have your traditional very narrow nature. Obviously there's no painted lines on the circuit, and you do have great high speed opportunities where when you think of street circuits normally like Monaco and Singapore, they're usually a lot slower, whereas Canada's known as being a bit more of a low downforce circuit.
Yeah, definitely. Canada's more well known for its openness and high speed sections, whereas you've got your likes of Monaco and Singapore are your tighter, twistier sections. But
Yeah,
and you've got a track like Baku that kind of combines both the narrowness and tightness, but the high speed sections as well.
Yeah, Baku obviously having that extremely narrow castle section where I'm slightly worried if F1 cars get any wider they won't be able to fit through. Thankfully, from Jess's point of view, there are no more street circuits after tonight, whatever your definition of a street circuit is. The 4 races after tonight, we've got Hockenheim once again, so those drivers who will be in the charity race will have a bit of an advantage perhaps around that circuit. And then Belgium,
I'll bring back
Britain,
some interesting memories.
Belgium, Britain and Brazil. So the next 4 races all known for their weather, so maybe could see a bit more drama as Chris is going fasty once again. He's a 10th up in the first sector. Let's just have a watch of this lap to see if he can pull anything more out. Either Hannon has got within 0.6 of a second at the moment. Rich doing well in third place. There's only 6 minutes left to go now in this qualifying session. Let's keep an eye on Chris in the Red Bull. He's still a 10th up. He's maintained that gap. This might be a bit disheartening for some of the others if they feel they've got a bit closer, and then he all of a sudden smashes in a faster time. DRS wide open. He's in the overtake with his ERS reaching over 200 mile an hour, nearly 210 when he gets to the braking zone, 330 kilometers an hour, taking as much of the chicane as you dare, nearly kissing that wall of champions, and it's an improvement by 6 thousandths of a second.
Watching Chris at the moment is a bit like watching an artist at work. The way he navigates his car through some of these tight and twisty sections, it's just amazing to watch.
It just reminds me of when Vettel in his Red Bull days, obviously with the same car, it was just when everything was working, he was winning the race, and there was not much you were going to be able to do about that. He was just that good at the moment. But you can see it's really close between the rest of the drivers. Eva Hannon and Lee Hoffner separated by less than a second. We've got Alex out on track at the moment. Catboy Key, he's looking to find a big improvement. He was on the medium tyres for his earlier lap, so this should move him up a few places. I expect most drivers to be heading out on the softs now, and indeed finds 1.3 seconds, and he moves him up
if you
to 11.
don't mind me saying, with a bit of our blabbering earlier, we didn't notice the sneaky little Toro Rosso sitting in third place. Rich is up to third in his Toro Rosso, so that's absolutely amazing from the Toro Rosso driver so far. Hopefully he can keep that position going into the race.
Yeah, definitely, because I feel like Rich, he's another one sort of in the same situation as Riley. He just needs a bit more luck to go for him, and he could really surprise this season. He's only had 15 points so far, but he got most of them with a great 4th place in Austria, taking advantage of some of the misfortune and some of the other drivers, but you've got to finish and you've got to be clean, and it's a great job around that circuit. And Austria, maybe similar characteristics with this one. You've got the long acceleration zones, you've got the heavy braking that you get, especially around the first sector of Austria, so he'll be happy with 3rd place and only needs to find a small bit of time to move up into 2nd place, not too far behind Eva Hannon, as we've got Stevie Hart. Said he was going to get a bit of a slipstream off Eva Hannon there, but he's run out of ERS, which has really compromised his lap time. You can see there about 5 or 6 miles an hour slower than what we saw Chris do earlier, and I think now he's run out of fuel as he heads towards the finish line, so that is probably going to be qualifying over for the Ferrari in last position.
Yeah, obviously very disappointing from him, coming in after the first couple of races to replace Schumacher, who didn't have the greatest of seasons, being caught up in a few incidents and ended up with the league ban for the season. So he came in to replace him and not really got off to the greatest of starts, being quite slow compared to everyone else in the podium tier. Maybe it's just that he's been away from the game for a little while and just not used to things, but I'm not sure we'll know.
Yeah, definitely. He's admitted that he hasn't really put much practice in this week, so he's not expecting much, and he plans to move to the wheel for F1 2020, so I can't imagine he'll be putting too much time in with this game, obviously coming towards the end of its cycle. Astronaut is finding some good time at the moment. This could be a good lap and may challenge his teammate, so one Mercedes could be pushing the other off the front row as that car's getting a bit lively out of the final corner, and Astronaut indeed, again, just a few hundredths ahead of his teammate. We're happy with that 2nd place. Eva Hannon, his teammate, just getting ready to warm up for a final lap. Most of the drivers now are out on outlaps, and they're going to find it getting extremely crowded around this circuit.
Yeah, definitely. Track congestion is going to be quite a major thing as to who gets a lap in clean air or not. As Stevie Hart has just retired, we've got Eva Hannon coming to start his lap now, so we'll keep an eye on him. I don't think we'll be seeing Chris coming back out, so he's feeling rather confident that his lap is enough to secure pole position. The question is, who will be the last person to cross the line? Let's have a look.
I think there's quite a few cars out on circuit, so we'll just see what Eva Hannon will do. This will be his final lap. I think Rich got around early enough, and one of the Alfa Romeos, got around early enough that they could theoretically
Eva
set another
Hannon
lap.
might be the last of the pole challengers to cross the line.
Yeah, we'll see what Eva Hannon can do then. He will have enough time to get another lap in. I think at the end of this, it's just he won't have enough fuel, and he's 3 tenths down on his personal best, and that wasn't the cleanest hairpin either, so I think it's going to be 3rd place. The best that he can do is he pulls out the slipstream of Riley, who's looking good at the moment, in 5th position. Them two, of course, had a coming together back at China, which didn't leave the Alfa Romeo driver best pleased. I think it's safe to say, as Eva Hannon, has he had a fantastic final sector to maybe challenge his teammate? No, he hasn't. Rich, though, has just picked the Mercedes, so he's got his Toro Rosso up into 2nd place. Checkered flag coming out now. It's going to be Dexter, first man across the finish line to finish his qualifying session in 8th place at the moment. Only needs to find a 10th or 2 to push ahead of his teammate and make it an all Alfa Romeo 3rd row of the grid, and he's not able to do that. 8th the best for him. Jonas Ulbricht in 9th. He was looking quick on the medium tyres, and he's invalidated his lap, so not a great lap for him.
World Champions. I think I just caught a glimpse of someone in the World Champions as I went on board with Jess Gamer. The Racing Point bailing out of her lap, as we've got the other Racing Point of Alex Lilliard now coming into the World Champions chicane. Almost nails it perfectly, just gets a little slide in the rear end as he's going to come across the line to get P14 in the Racing Point. As Indecisive Matt goes P14 as well there, just clinching it there.
Yeah, we'll see what time Riley is doing then, because I think everyone else now has finished their lap times. Can Riley challenge the Mercedes? He needs to find a big improvement on this lap. He did find a big improvement, but not quite enough. So 5th place for him. The Mercedes have the 2nd row, but Chris once again showing fantastic form. Half a second clear of the rest of the field. It's his 3rd pole position in a row. Can he convert it to a 3rd victory in a row as well? Rich alongside him with his best qualifying of the season in 2nd. There's Astronauti and championship leader Eva Hannon 3rd and 4th. Riley 5th. The 2 Renaults line astern in 6th and 7th as well. Dexter 8th. Jonas Ulbricht 9th, Lee Hofner 10th, Gaza in 11th, but he will have free choice of tyres for the race, and that could be crucial. Kingan 12th, Catboy Key 13th, Indecisive Mac 14th, Alex Lilliard 15th, Zach Jarvis 16th, Just Gamer 17th, Stevie Hart 18th, and Truth NRP not setting a lap time. And if that qualifying is any fit to go by, it could be another dominant victory for the Red Bull driver.
Yeah, it's looking like it after that qualifying performance. Half a second clears quite the margin, especially around the track like Canada, where it's very easy to have a very congested grid.
Yeah, definitely. The weather looking really safe for now, but as we know, about 45 minutes into this race, which will be probably around lap 32, 33 to be honest, heavy rain could come. Now that is just an estimation. It may come a bit earlier, it may not come at all, and we have seen that a few times where the rain has come late on and not really had an effect on anything. I believe it was Paul Ricard where the rain came on the final lap. It was just too late for anyone to really gain any time on the intermediate. So all setting up their strategy now, and I really hope for Chris's sake he hasn't readied up too early, because we've been doing well with that at Podium tier. Not many drivers have had a penalty for a while, and that will get him 5 seconds if they've readied up too early. So hopefully for his sake he hasn't, although with the form he's in, I think he could be winning this race by more than 5 seconds anyway.
Yeah, definitely. We'll just have to wait and see what happens as we're away to get ready to begin the formation lap. Just a quick question as we start the formation lap. What do you make of the lack of driver transfers in the podium tier? So what is your opinion on that?
I'm not that surprised, if I'm being perfectly honest. Jess did ask us who we thought would be changing, and I did struggle actually to think of who might be moving around. Maybe Truth NRP going down to a lower team I thought could have been possible, but I wasn't really sure who would then move up. I mean, Rich could have possibly swapped with him between the McLaren and the Toro Rosso, but most of the drivers seem to have been in the cars that have been respectable. I know a few could have said Aaron maybe as well. He's not had the greatest start, but in fairness, he's now missed 2 races out of 6 after tonight, and he's generally, when he's not had any problems, shown good pace. Definitely a regular point scorer when he does complete the race. So I'm not that surprised no one moved. How about you, Liam?
Yeah, like you said, I'm not really surprised that not many people have moved. I could have seen a couple of people moving, maybe the likes of, I don't know, Truth NRP moving, maybe, I don't know, one of the Ferraris moving. I could have seen, say, like Riley or Dexter moving to a Ferrari, maybe even Jonas moving up a team. Would have been quite possible for maybe one of the Racing Point drivers to get moved. Maybe Jess moved him to a lower team like Williams or Haas and swap with someone like possibly Cat YK, maybe.
Yeah, or Kingan. He's done really well in the Williams as well. Will he do really well today? Everyone's now heading around. There's that famous wall of champions. Used to say welcome to Canada on it, and it has been very welcoming for quite a few drivers over the years. We'll see if everyone can keep it clean tonight. Just waiting for the final cars to come up. You see Truth NRP, only driver outside the top 10 on the soft tyres. Everyone else going for the medium. So this could be a big race on the strategy. And we've always got that spectre of the weather in the background as the lights are coming on. Wait now for the 5 lights to go out. Racing here at Montreal. It's a good start from Chris. He's having to move over a bit just to block off Rich. The Mercedes getting a decent start as well as Riley actually tries to look down the inside of Ivahanen. Got yellow flags as Jonas Ulbricht and has gone round early on. We've seen Gazaman get a penalty already, so that's one of the championship rivals in problems, and virtual safety car already. Not much changing at the front of the field, but Jonas just found out how dangerous it can be in the midfield.
Yeah, definitely, especially with such a tight turn 1 into turn 2. That chicane almost at turn 1 is quite easy to be caught out at, especially on the first lap when everybody's bunched up in traffic. So you got to really be careful with where you're placing your car at certain times in the race, just to avoid what happened to Jonas, really, and maybe getting damage.
Yeah, his front wing right end plate is missing, so he'll be heading into the pits soon, I imagine, to get that change. That will affect him quite a lot. And I'm guessing he may, well, we'll see, medium or hard tyres. You'll imagine if he goes for, as there's I saw a bit of debris there at the hairpin as the yellow flags are back in, so we are racing once again. I saw some debris. I'm not sure which car it was. TC seems to have dropped a bit behind, and so has Nicky as well. But Chris leading at the end of lap 1 from Rich, who's got the 2 Mercedes all over the back of him. Riley there as well. And it's TC, Nicky, Dexter, Zach and Stevie Hart. They've had a fantastic start from further down the grid, just keeping it nice and clean.
Quite a few drivers in the pits already, so maybe more people got damage than we thought.
Yeah, both Haas drivers in the pits. Lee Hoffner getting held up slightly there, so that's been a nightmare for him. So we've seen there, Zach Jarvis has moved up 7 places. He's just got past Gazaman as well. Stevie Hart's gone up 7 places as well. Both Racing Points kept it clean on that first lap. Lee Hoffner and Jonas, the big losers there. Because something definitely happened with Jonas, and then we saw Gazza's penalty for a collision with Alex, and he will have to serve that in this race, similar to when Nicky did last time out. So even if it is an unfair penalty, unfortunately the stewards won't be able to do anything to remove it after the race. It will have DRS next time round, and already Chris, he's broken that 1 second window.
If you go and look on board with Lee Hoffner, something's gone very wrong with the tyres. He's put intermediates on for some reason.
I'm guessing he had it set up, expected to go a long time maybe, on medium tyres and then changed to the intermediates with a strategy, and he's forgot to change it. I did something similar last week in the charity race when I meant to put wet tyres on, and I ended up sticking with intermediates during the monsoon conditions, and I had to pretend afterwards like it was a fantastic strategic call by me, when in reality it was a mistake. And he's got no such defence, so he's going to be really struggling. You can see he's nearly a lap down already. Jonas in again. So, I'm not sure why he's going.
You could possibly try and stretch those hard tyres to the end, possibly.
Actually, saying that's his first stop, so he must have just missed last lap because Truth NRP came in.
Yeah.
So yeah, those hard tyres could be going for as long as possible, especially if it's going to rain in the final few stages. But they do have DRS now. They've had it down the straight, and Rich has actually got away from Astronauti slightly. He might be having the attention
Riley's
of
at
his
the inside
teammate.
of TC.
Yeah,
Into the chicane.
Riley getting past TC, and I think that might have been a switch back again because he was ahead of TC at some point, so he's actually dropped back from the Mercedes slightly. We will see a bit of a DRS train with these drivers now. Dexter trying to defend from Zach Jarvis. All these front runners will be pitting a bit earlier, so Zach could be in a pretty decent situation on those medium tyres later on in the race. We'll have to wait and see. Out in front, it's still Chris. Rich has pulled the gap out slightly, and Eva Hannon and Astronauti third and fourth. I wonder if there'll be any team orders between these two, because Eva Hannon is the driver leading in the championship at the moment, really needs to maximise his points, but Astronauti only 28 points behind his teammate, so he's got every right surely to fight for this position. He wants to win this championship as well.
Yeah, definitely. I don't see any reason further to be team orders unless one driver is drastically slower, which it doesn't appear to be. They seem to be evenly matched on pace at the moment, so unless theirs are coming together, I don't see why they can't be allowed to battle and keep it respectable between teammates.
Yeah, we've got another teammate battle as well with TC and Nicky currently running 6th and 7th. There were yellow flags briefly there in Sector 2. That was for Catboy Key, who was able to continue down in the 17th. Really looking like a nightmare race for the McLaren and the Haas teams at the moment. Here's the big battle out on track though. 5th, 6th and 7th. You've got Dexter not too far behind as well. Nicky will be hoping to dispatch his teammate pretty quickly, and to be fair to TC, at Austria, when we were in a similar situation for this later in the race, he was quite happy just to let Nicky by once he knew his teammate was quicker, but at this early stage he'll just be hoping to get ahead of the Alfa Romeo of Riley as well.
Yeah, I think that's the main goal for both of them at the moment, is try and get past that Alfa Romeo of Riley, and if TC can't do it within the next few laps, I think we could see him possibly moving out the way and letting Nicky have a go on the Alfa Romeo driver.
Yeah, Eva Hannon might be looking to get past Astronauti now. He's got the DRS open, not really pushing for it into the chicane, but you still have DRS from that same activation point heading towards turn 1. Astronauti getting a good exit though from that chicane. Will we now see the Mercedes swap positions as Eva Hannon goes for the inside line? Astronauti not really defending that one, and that is Eva Hannon, championship leader, up into 3rd place. Lee Hoffner setting the fastest lap of the race on those medium tyres. Now that he's been in and got rid of those intermediates, I hope he hasn't ruined them too much, because he might need them in about 30 minutes time. And that, the Mercedes, Astronauti didn't seem to have the same pace as Rich or even his teammate, because he's already dropping into the clutches of Riley, TC and Nicky, and he has dropped back behind the Toro Rosso as well. Eva Hannon, he'll be hoping to get that gap down to a second. It's out in front. Chris already 3.5 seconds ahead at the moment.
Yeah, Chris just pulling away like he has done for the past 2 or 3 weeks now, just having that pace over absolutely everybody, just being able to pull the gap, a bit like Sebastian Vettel did when back in his Red Bull days when he was out front. That's just what he did, was pull away after just constantly, and Astronauti's into the pits.
Yeah, early pit stop. Said he was struggling slightly, not a fan of those soft tyres. Mediums heading on. We've got a yellow flag in Sector 3 and Zach going very slowly, so I'm not sure if he just got it wrong coming through that chicane. Doesn't look to have any damage though. Behind him, Alex Lilliart all over the back of Stevie Hart, who is still in the points. Gazaman has headed in as well. Bit early, do you think, maybe for those medium tyres?
Possibly, as well. I'm on board with Eva Hannon right now, and he's struggling a bit to keep the rear in check, as he's now within DRS range of Rich in the Toro Rosso, so that's going to be an interesting fight over second place. But Riley about a similar gap behind him. Each of the drivers are within 7/10 of each other from about second them to 6th place at the moment.
Yeah, TC pretty close onto the back of Riley, but with the Alfa Romeo having DRS as well, not really able to catch up at the moment, as we do see a few drivers pit. Riley carrying on,
Both Renaults in.
Just about getting it stopped. There's Rich in, Ivahanen in, and both Renaults in. Not sure that's an ideal situation for Nicky. He could lose out a lot of time here.
Yeah, definitely, as... Yeah, it's going to cost Nicky quite a lot of time having double stacked there. I'm not sure they're in communication, so that's really going to throw a spanner in the works for the Renault drivers this evening. Well, not both Renault drivers, just Nicky really. Yeah, it's going to cost him at least 5 to 10 seconds in the pit lane.
Yeah, it's dropped back behind Dexter.
It's going to cost him quite a bit, as Ivahanen now right on the back of Rich, who's now gaining on Astronaut. So the undercut looking to have worked for the other Mercedes drivers, but Rich getting DRS off of Astronaut, who's being held up by Rich's teammate Zach in front of him, allowing the Rich and Ivahanen to gain back on them. So I'm not sure whether this was a genius team play or just a bit of blind luck.
We'll have to see. They are side by side now down the straight. Jess has got it wrong at the turn 6-7 chicane, and she's got damage to her front wing, so she will have to pit early on as Astronaut uses that DRS to get past Zach Jarvis. Now he is up into 3rd place. Zach very close though to the back of Astronaut, but he won't have DRS, and I imagine it won't be long before Rich is wanting to get past. Chris, you can just see him ahead there, a little speck of a Red Bull in the distance. He has come out well clear of Astronaut, who is now in a net 2nd place, so really gaining in that pit stop period. You can see there, Zach does let his teammate by, but he's defending hard from Ivahanen.
Yeah, I think that was supposed to be a smart play from the Toro Rosso drivers there, was to have Zach let Rich through and then hold up Ivahanen for as long as possible here. So we'll wait and see what happens now, as Rich is going to have to use as much as the time his teammate can buy him as possible to run up that road and catch the Mercedes that's pulling away.
Well, he hasn't been able to buy him much time, actually. Oh, Zach Jarvis went for the move there on Ivahanen, and another driver went for it. Riley caught catching TC by surprise. He dived down the inside, so Ivahanen has got clear of Zach, and both Riley and TC with DRS, and it is the Renault who is just ahead for now. I think he was thinking about maybe slipping one up the inside of Zach before he saw Riley flying by in the Alfa Romeo, but he's managed to regain that place. Ivahanen did actually lose a second, getting stuck behind Zach. Zach will now be trying to hold up the Renault and the Alfa Romeo, just give his teammate a bit of free air. Was dropped 1.6 seconds behind Astronaut at the moment, and Nicky in 9th place. Can't imagine he's too happy at the moment. Came into the pits after his teammate. He was right on the back of his teammate, and now you can see behind both Alfa Romeos.
Yeah, definitely, but a bit of bad strategy call there from the Renault team, as TC is now on his way up the inside of Zach into the one of the many chicanes here at Canada. So Zach not really being able to hold him up for too long, as now he's just holding off Riley. A bit of a questionable defending there, but the Alfa Romeo driver will surely have the move done down the straight, although he might not, since Zach does have the DRS on TC in front of him.
Yeah, Chris setting the fastest lap of the race. I just noticed Zach is missing an end plate on his front wing as well, so that probably explains why he's struggling a bit more on those medium tyres at this point in the race, but he's holding on to TC for now, and this is going to cost Riley big style. He needs to get past sooner rather than later, otherwise he might have his teammates heading up to the back of him. 2.6 seconds the gap at the moment between the two Alfa Romeos. We're on lap 11 of this race. The majority of the field have made their first stop, as you can see now. In fact, Lee Hofner, after accidentally switching onto the intermediates, he's already done the compulsory 2 stops, and it is Chris with a 4.8 second lead over Astronaut. He pitted earlier than Rich and Ivahanen, and he's really gained from that now, although Ivahanen right on the back of the Toro Rosso. It'll be interesting to see if Eva Hannon gets back, if he'll be able to catch up and pass his teammate, because he did look to be quicker in the first stint of the race.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things we'll have to wait and see how it unfolds over the course of this race, as Riley is side by side with Zach going up the back straight towards the chicane. The turns 13 and 14 chicane here, but he's going to have the move done before the chicane, nice and simple with the DRS.
Yeah, nice.
We've also got Eva Hannon and Rich. Eva Hannon's got past Rich going down the start-finish straight there. I didn't quite catch that, did you?
No, I actually saw Nicky getting past Dexter, so it was one Alfa Romeo getting to place, another lost one. Nicky just carbon copy of what Riley did to Zach, so he's up into 8th place. Eva Hannon getting past Rich as well. Both Toro Rossos getting past on that lap, and he will now try and catch up to his teammate. Just 1.1 seconds the gap at the moment. Getting stuck behind Zach cost Riley a chunk of time. He's now 1.6 seconds behind TC, and Nicky's all over the back of the Toro Rosso as well, getting DRS, and Zach all over the track there. Nicky, I think, just about managing to avoid contact. I think Zach had a few desync issues last week as he's banging wheels again with the Renault driver, and Nicky, I'm sure, will be glad when he does get past Zach, defending for all he's worth, but he's not got the grip on the tyres. He's missing part of his car. That is a straightforward overtake for Nicky. I think Dexter's going to get it done fairly simply as well down the back straights. And indeed, Zach down into 9th place. Don't think it'll be long before we see the Toro Rosso heading into the pits.
Yeah, he took one for the team earlier, helping his teammate out. I think that might have been part of his plan for the race this evening, is if anything happened, those two would do their best to work together and help the leading driver sorry about that, get a high scoring position as possible.
Yeah, and Rich is in 4th place at the moment. Eva Hannon closing up quite quickly to the back of his teammates. Kingan has gone out on the soft tyres, which is an interesting strategy choice. Jonas moving up the field on his hards into 12th place, as it has got distinctly more overcast around this Montreal circuit at the moment. We are expecting rain at some point. It's just whether it comes early enough to have a massive impact on the race. We'll have to wait and see. Jonas now up into 11th, getting past Stevie Hart. So despite losing part of his front wing early on, he's not too far off the points at the moment, as Astronauti and Eva Hannon battling at the moment for 2nd position. Eva Hannon not close enough there, having to lift off through the chicane, and this should be a straightforward pass past his teammate once again. Eva Hannon now up into 2nd position. Can he challenge Chris at all? The only 2 drivers that have won so far this season, and you've got to say it looks like being one of them again here tonight.
Yeah, definitely, as Zach is now into the pits. Kingan is now out on a set of soft tyres and is up the inside of Jess Gamer into the hairpin now. A nice simple move there. It's not been another great race for Jess in the Racing Point yet again. I'm not sure what's gone wrong this week. It's been rather unfortunate.
Yeah, she is actually missing part of her front wing. I did see her go off earlier at turn 6 and 7, so that's probably explaining her struggle for pace at the moment in 18. She's just trying to go on as long as possible to make the strategy work. She did say in the pre-race interviews that she is still getting used to the ERS management. It's something that plays a big part of these F1 games. You've got to be really careful about when you're using your power, and especially if you're used to automatic. It is something that can be easily forgot about, and we saw in qualifying once Stevie ran out of ERS. It cost him about 10 kilometres an hour down the back straight. That is a huge chunk of lap time to lose, especially around a circuit like this. And speaking of Stevie, he's just been passed by Zach Jarvis. So the 2 drivers who made their debut last week, swapping positions for 12th and 13th position. But it's still Chris out in front, but he's now got the man ahead of him in the championship, trying to close that gap of 5.2 seconds. Chris first, Eva Hannon second, Astronauti third.
Yeah, speaking of Jess, she was in the driver's press conference this week being roasted by Nick as usual. He's asking her But due to our struggles in the last few weeks, if it's been due the track-related problems or just to cover up for poor performance, really.
Sorry to interrupt, Liam. It's raining. This rain has come a lot earlier than 45 minutes. It's starting to spit around this circuit now. You are just getting light bits of rain. It's definitely not enough to force anyone onto the intermediate tyres yet, but maybe this is why Jess, some of these others on the mediums, are just holding on a bit longer, but they will still have to do 2 stops, of course. This can make things very interesting indeed. And going back to that point about Jess, she said she doesn't like street circuits, and she doesn't class Canada as a street circuit. I wonder after this performance tonight, she might start classing it as a street circuit and putting it into that
I think we might just... I'm convinced we jinx her every week. Every time we say, oh, I think this might be a good performance for Jess, she always seems to struggle. I think we seem to put a deliberate jinx on her absolutely every week. The commentator's curse has struck for Jess.
Yeah, as Stevie Hart's gone in for a very early stop for those intermediate tyres. Kingan heading in as well. He's got a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Once the weather changes, it can be extremely quickly before the track starts to get wet, but still a very early stop for those tyres. I feel they could have done another lap or two, especially Kingan on those softs that are only 4 laps old. He had definitely plenty of life left in his tyres and he will come out in last place, but most of the front runners are staying out, I believe, and not too surprising as there is a gaggle of cars behind Ivahanen at the moment. You saw their 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th all in the same straight.
Yeah, definitely. It's quite an interesting race. Now that the rain has come earlier, could we possibly have a couple of Canada 2011 situations here where some people start to struggle quite a bit in these wet conditions and skate around all over the track?
Yeah,
one of the many famous races around this track.
I think Steve is already struggling a bit on those intermediate tyres, so maybe it's just not wet enough at the moment. I saw Catboy Key as well. He's in a bit of a dilemma. They need to hold on, those that are on the old medium tyres, for another lap or two. Those tyres will not like that in these conditions whatsoever. But you can just see Stevie going straight on almost at the hairpin. It's just not wet enough for those tyres at the moment. Alex and Catboy Key coming in. Normally, once you see that DRS disable message, that is the prime time to take the dry tyres off. There are a few more are coming in. Chris heading in now for the intermediate tyres. Surely Ivahanen going on another lap.
I think this could be it's a rather interesting strategy call from the Red Bull team here. So I don't think the track's quite wet enough yet for intermediates, but I could be proven wrong. But from the off-board cameras, the rain doesn't look very heavy, but going on board it does look a lot heavier than it does using the spectator cams rather than the on-board cameras.
Yeah, we'll have to see what sort of times differences there is between him and Ivahanen at the moment. As Chris tapping the wall there, he's got Dexter just behind him at the moment. We'll have to see if we are getting to that crossover point. A few more drivers are pitting, and it doesn't look like Chris is struggling as much as Stevie was, but even on the slicks, Dexter getting a much better exit than the Red Bull. Chris having to defend, Dexter going to the grass and deciding to fight that move another day, but just by holding on for an extra lap, that might be enough for Ivahanen, Astronaut, and some of these others to catch up.
TC is sent it on Rich here, so got quite the battle unfolding here with Astronaut now getting close enough to have DRS on the lap cars in front of him, but which is probably keeping him ahead of Rich and Co as they're now all coming into the pit.
Well, yeah, Ivahanen went on for another lap.
Well, he hasn't. Ivahanen looks to be struggling at the moment. I just seen him struggle to get the car turned for the first couple of corners there. So a majority of the field now out on those intermediate tyres. So it looks like Chris and Cole might have made the right decision.
Yeah, the time he lost on that lap, he lost a bit of time in the first sector, but gained it all back in the second and third sector.
It's the signal, DRS disabled, so it is definitely now intermediate conditions, to say the least, as well. Heavy rain is coming up next, so I wonder how long it'll be before that has arrived.
Yeah, and we could have the two Renaults holding each other up in the pit lane again, because Nicky didn't pit either, as we've seen someone go into the wall there. That was the hat of Catboy Key. He's got big damage on his car. Truth NRP's had an issue with his internet dying, so he's down in 12th and will be an AI car, so unless he can get reconnected, it's definitely going to be no points for him in the McLaren, as Chris has gained about 4 seconds already on this lap. He's going to be so far ahead of Ivan, and this could be so crucial in the championship come the end of the season. Ivan's going to drop behind Astronauts, he's going to drop behind Rich, and Nicky, not wanting to get stuck behind his teammate, is having to carry on for another lap on slick tyres. We've seen great examples before of how to work together as a team. It's safe to say Renault haven't shown the best of that tonight.
Yeah, I think the Renault team have been gifted the Ferrari strategists this evening, having absolutely no idea what they're doing with the race strategy. First they decided to double start their drivers, and then now they've got one of their drivers out on a suicide mission.
Oh, and he's round!
Slick drivers on the slick tyres in the wet conditions.
Almost a fantastic drift around turn 5 there from Nicky, but wasn't able to hold it, clipped at the wall, and even though Eva Hannon did do that extra lap, still came out ahead of Astronauty, and he's soon going to be able to get past Nicky. So we've got Chris in the lead of the race again with 16 laps remaining. There's the sign that Truth NRP has been able to rejoin, but it's still extremely close. Astronauty, Rich, TC and Riley line astern at the moment, but no DRS. It's usually a bit tricky to overtake into the final couple of corners. It's going to be even more so in these conditions. We will check the pit stops. Stevie Hart and Jess Gamer and Nicky still have to make an extra start. We know Nicky will be doing that on this lap, but Jess and Stevie will be hoping that the rain gets worse towards the end so that they have to put on the wet tyres. Otherwise, they're going to have to make an extra pit stop. That's not really ideal, just to avoid getting disqualified, as Nicky finally gets into the pits and will drop way down the order.
Yeah, definitely not the greatest race for Nicky this evening. He's definitely been gifted one of the Ferrari strategists, sacrificing his race at the moment, it looks like. Just, they left him hanging out to dry on those slick tyres, basically.
Yeah, I do think this rain came a bit earlier than some of the drivers expected. Definitely earlier than we expected. We knew it was going to be dry at 20 laps. We knew it was going to be heavy rain at 20 minutes, sorry. We knew it was going to be heavy rain at 45 minutes. And Nicky, in the end, coming out 17 seconds behind Riley. Not too far ahead of Gazaman and Jonas Ulbricht. So, could be a lonely remainder of the race for Nicky. His teammates definitely got no problems about being lonely at the moment. Rich and Astronauty not too far ahead. Riley not too far behind either. Chris still 9.5 seconds ahead, as you can see the differing lines some of these drivers take in these wet conditions. You always see the drivers go for the karting line.
Here we go, we've got Rich flying down the back straight. I don't think he's got high enough, well, a low enough downforce setup to overtake that Mercedes down the straights unless he gets a much better run. But TC is now all over his rear end and might have a go in a turn 1. And he's going to send that, he's made contact in the back of the Toro Rosso driver, broke extremely late, and Rich is now out of the race.
Rich
Due to an absolute suicidal dive bomb almost from TC. Lost control of his car under braking and slammed into the back of the Toro Rosso driver of Rich, spearing him off into the wall as Riley picks up a 5-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. I don't think I can blame him for not quite understanding what's going on after being not too far behind the explosion that has just happened.
Yeah, I'm just going to rewind the stream slightly and see if I can spot up what happened, because I was on board with TC, but I didn't quite take it in. In the end, Riley's moved up to 4th place. TC, he's going to have to pit again, surely, with that. Rich out of the race. First retirement, virtual safety car, thankfully not race lasting too long. As we see what bit, because on my screen, I'm going to be honest, it looked as though Rich moved slightly. But I'm not sure whether that was just a bit of desync with the game But I think TC, I'm not sure he really fully committed to the move. He just got a bit caught out by the lack of grip in the wet conditions.
Yeah, I'll have a quick look at it myself. I think, because on my screen, because I was on board with TC as well, and it looked like Rich might have lost the traction a bit there, so I'll have a quick look for you. Just have a quick, well, as you pay attention to what's going on right now.
Yes, TC's headed into the pits. Gazaman has got quite a few cars behind him at the moment. Jonas and Dexter. Dexter seems to have dropped back quite a bit, so I'm not sure if he had any issues in that VSC period, but TC is going to come out behind all these guys. It's not been a great race for the Renaults. Been a contact there. Actually, that's just a lap car skidding, as we saw Dexter manage to get past him, so I thought there'd have been a bit more of a collision there, but thankfully not, as the rain does look to be getting a bit heavier. You are seeing more of a dry line on the circuit, and that's going to make it even more difficult to overtake. Once you head off that drier line on these intermediate tyres, you're not going to have a lot of grip.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just still trying to see what happened in the moment.
No worries, Gaza, you can see they're just drifting slightly around turn 9. Rain coming down heavier with 12 laps remaining here. It's all looking pretty comfortable for Chris though to take his third victory in a row, but Jonas wanting to get past the Red Bull. Dexter not too far back, and TC trying to salvage something with this race, but it wouldn't surprise me if those two, TC and Rich, are heading to the stewards at some point, and I think it's going to be a bit more than a slap on the wrist for the Renault driver heading into the next race in Germany. Jonas still close to Gaza, not able to do anything on the straight. Can he do anything now down the main pit straight though? Gaza feeling the need to go defensive as Jonas tries to go down the inside, but he has to cut across the curb and Jonas spins around. That was another move that didn't really look on, to be honest. He went for it quite late on. I don't think Gaza saw him coming. Jonas having to go onto the curb, making contact, and as always happens, the car behind that gets its front wheel tag just seems to go pirouetting around. Jonas now down into 9th position after doing so well to come back after his incident earlier on, but thankfully he is undamaged from all of that.
Yeah, I just having a look back at the stream there, it looked like Rich got one of his wheels on the grass and then tried to correct it, was kind of fighting for control of the car, unaware that TC was so close. As TC sending it up the inside on Dexter there, catching the Alfa Romeo driver napping there. But yeah, he ploughed into the back of the out of control Toro Rosso, it seems. Really couldn't do anything from the stream, it looked like, to avoid that.
Yeah, but so Riley's going for it again. That's a very optimistic move. There's no chance. It's Dexter, sorry, not Riley, who was going for that. And Dexter now down in 8th place. He's dropped back a bit into the clutches of Jonas. I'm not sure, even in the dry conditions, there was any way Dexter was getting that overtake done on TC from that far back.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was a bit over ambitious from Dexter there. There definitely wasn't any space at all to send it there. Especially into that chicane. TC's now hunting down Gazaman, who snuck his way back into the points yet again for another race.
He said that he's always there. Like even last race when he finished outside the top 10, he got the point for the fastest lap for those outside the top 10 and finished in 11th place. So points every race so far this season, as Jess is out of the session and a virtual safety car has been deployed again, and that is heading down towards turn 8. I don't know whether she's... Oh, that is a huge accident that Jess has had there. I'm not sure whether she's gone into the back of another car or just lost it on her own, but it looked like both wheels were off the racing point.
Well, I didn't catch what happened, as I've been focusing on TC and trying to catch Gaza for now. As Lee Hoffner's in for the wet tyres now.
He's definitely coming down a bit heavier. Gaza heading in
Gaza's
as well.
in as well. So possibly time for the wet tyres now.
Yeah, especially under the VSC where pit stop time greatly reduced. So that moves TC up into 6th, Dexter 7th, Jonas 8th, Gazaman is going to come out in 11th position, I believe. Might be pretty close with Truth NRP who's going at reduced speed, but VSC has ended. Let's see what kind of times Gaza and Lee Hoffner can do.
I think TC's let Dexter through because it looked like that. He lifted off to let Dexter through there.
Yeah, maybe TC feeling that his own move was a bit aggressive. Heading into the hairpin, we've got another yellow flag as that is Stevie Harter has now retired from the session. I think if you need an indicator that it is now wet enough for the full wet tyres, a lot of drivers seem to be struggling. There could be some big time to be gained here. Gaza, see how he does compared to Truth NRP at the moment. Getting similar traction out of that corner. Thankfully, it's only a yellow flag and no virtual safety car or full safety car as Riley picks up penalties for exceeding track limits in his attempt to get his first podium of the season. We've not seen any of the front runners pit yet for wet tyres.
I believe that they will be waiting to see what everyone else is like on the wet tyres, like the likes of Gazaman and co. I think they might just be waiting and following their example. But I was on board with Riley for a minute there, and he looked to be struggling to keep the car pointing in the right direction, having to fight at the rear end. So maybe another subtle hint that we're getting closer and closer to wet tyre conditions.
Yeah, Gaza didn't really gain any time on those ahead of him, but saying that he didn't lose any either. So as the rain continues to fall down, you've got to assume that just means the wet tyres will get better and better every lap. Now that Zach and Truth NRP have pitted, Gaza is up into 9th place. TC all over the back of Dexter, still with Jonas not too far back either. Is TC going to go for a lunge into turn 8? No, Dexter having to run over the chicane, and that might just give TC the chance he needs. Struggling to put the power down in these conditions. They're heading side by side into the hairpin. The Reynolds far enough ahead, surely, as they're both going to go deep. Dexter going way, way wide. That might even give Jonas a chance. He spins across the track. Contact with Jonas. Well, it's all just getting a bit messy now as the drivers are struggling to cope with these conditions. And thankfully, though, I think they've got away unscathed without any damage. And still, the lead few cars staying out on these intermediate tyres for now. And Gaza did lose a couple of seconds to Chris on that lap. So you've got to say, if you can cope with the intermediates, you might as well try and see if you can get them to last till the end of this race. But judging by Dexter, TC and Riley, the grip is definitely fading out there.
Yeah, definitely. But I don't see the likes... Well, I definitely don't see the likes of Chris and Eva Hannon really swapping to the wet tyres unless it's absolutely necessary. They seem to be quite comfortable just circling around on their intermediates for now, as after all, and mostly the intermediates these days are basically used as wet weather tyres anyway. The full wets are hardly ever used in real life. It's most of the intermediates they go with.
Yeah, and we also saw that last week in the charity race. It was pretty much only in the monsoon conditions where you needed the wet tyres, and then the safety car was out. Within a lap of the safety car coming in, everyone was heading into the pits to put the intermediate tyres on, so it may give you a bit more confidence that the car's not going to get away from you, especially once you get off the racing line. But if you can just handle the much more active rear end than what you'll be used to having, you can cope on these intermediate tyres. And you can see Gaza, Zach and Truth not really gaining on those ahead at this point in the race. Riley still trying to catch up to Astronauti, 3rd and 4th at the moment. Astronauti being a regular on the podium this in the early part of the season, a 3rd and a 2nd in the first 2 races. He's looking for his first podium since then. Riley looking for his first of the season, and that will be his 5th overall at One Hub if he can do so. Catboy Key is headed into the pits now for wet tyres as well. I believe everyone has made 2 stops. Yes, it was only Stevie and Jess who hadn't made 2 stops, and they have retired. A shame for them, as they could have been looking good. Lee Hoffner, Kingen and Catboy Key are making 4 pit stops. Haas boys have definitely been busy in the pit lane today.
Yeah, definitely. The Haas boys have had to be very active on their toes this evening. Definitely earning their paycheck, to say the least. At least they've not had any loose tyres coming off the car so far this evening. Well, that's been a mistake in the pit lane anyway.
Yeah, the main mistakes we've seen in the pit lane have just been Renault getting their timing wrong, with Nicky coming in straight after TC and then having to go probably 2 laps longer than was optimal onto these dry tyres, as Astronauti has gone off circuit at turn 2. That's let Riley into 3rd place, so a mistake from the Mercedes driver. Riley was slowly reeling him in, and we've seen a swap there. So now Astronauti, can he try and fight back to catch up to Riley? We'll have to wait and see. He's got a big enough gap behind him to Nicky that he doesn't have to push too hard. Will he settle for 4th place, or will he try and get another podium?
I think he's going to try and push for the podium, you know. But I wouldn't put it past Riley to just extend that gap, because he is on for his first podium of the season here, and he's earned it out on track. Nobody's really hit him at all this evening. He's been clear of any incidents as well, so could this be Riley's chance at the podium, having an incident-free race?
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Gaza does seem to be gaining slightly now on the leaders. He's gained a second or two on this lap, but with not long to go in this race, it probably is just worth all those front drivers sticking out on the intermediate tyres. We'll have to wait and see, because they will lose a lot of time if they change. We've got yellow flags again in Sector 1. I'm not sure who's that for, as we're going to have some more now, as Catboy Key around and on the grass at 6 and 7. No damage done though, and he is able to continue. He was hoping for a good result today, and he's 2 laps down in last position. Has definitely not gone to plan for the Haas team, as he's off again. Even on these wet tyres, finding it extremely difficult to stay on the circuit.
Yeah, just having a quick look at the penalty situation here, and Ibrahim does have a 5-second time penalty, so if Riley can close that gap enough, he could well be within the gap to... Well, I don't think he will, because Riley also has multiple penalties. Astronauti, clean on penalties, it looks, only has the 1 penalty, so only Chris in the top 5 is the only driver without a penalty, so
I think
he's kept it clean so far this evening.
What a great job he's doing. It started in the lead, obviously on pole position, pulled away a bit in the slick conditions, changed to intermediate tyres at the right time. We thought it may have been a lap or 2 early, but you could argue we got it bang on. He's still 9 seconds ahead, and he's kept it clean at the moment. Dexter dropped back quite a long way actually from TC, as he's got damage. Jonas not too far behind him, and Gazaman slowly catching these up on his wet tyres, so we could see Gaza pull up an extra couple of places maybe in the final stages of this race.
Yeah, just watching Chris a bit here, and the back end is quite loose on that Red Bull, so he's going to have to watch that for the last few remaining laps, as not really got any battles out on track for the moment. So we've got VSC now, so I'm not sure what's happened there.
Catboy Key has retired, and that is coming into turn 3, I believe. You can just see the Haas there on the left hand side disappearing now. So another virtual safety car. He just pitted for a set of intermediate tyres and was really struggling. Truth NRP's heading into the pits as well. Is this going to be for another set of wets, or no, heading back onto the intermediate tyres? So maybe we've seen the worst of the rain now. We could see a few more that changed to the wet pit. He didn't have anything to lose. He was in 11th place outside of the points. He's going to come back out in 11th. Green flag racing once again with 2.5 laps remaining here. The closest battles out on track, probably, you've got to say, Riley and Astronauti, as they're both drifting their way through the final chicane. 3 laps to go for those guys, but with the penalties Riley has, Astronauti should be fine to take that. And Ken Gaza close up to Jonas in the final couple of laps as well.
I don't see how he can. He's been slowly reeling him in the last couple of laps, but if he does want to get him, you will have to step it up just that little bit extra, just push that little bit more, find that right edge of car performance entire grip to reel in that McLaren. Although the gap is about 2 seconds, it's Gaza drifting his way on entry and exit of that final chicane about 2.5 seconds behind Jonas. So I'm not sure if he will quite catch the McLaren. I think this could be the final finishing order as Zach Jarvis is into the pits, probably for a set of intermediate tyres, I do believe. So that could promote Truth NRP back into the points this evening.
Truth pitted under the VSC and was behind Zach before that, and there you're just seeing the advantage of pitting under yellow flag conditions, as Truth NRP is just about going to come out ahead of Zach Jarvis. I think they're going to be side by side heading towards turn 3, and no, that pit entry, the pit exit, deceptive as it is, allowing Zach to just stay ahead for now. So we said we wanted to see some battling. We could have one here for the final points position. We also saw the two Williams have swapped places. Kingan 14th, Indecisive Mac 15th. Not been a great race for the Williams team so far, but Truth gained a bit of position and time under that virtual safety car period. He's right all over the back of Zach at the moment, but there's only really one racing line you can afford to take around this circuit.
Yeah, definitely. As Gaz is now 7 tenths behind Jonas, so as he's going on to the penultimate lap, is going to be really now or never for Gaza if he's wanting to get that move done on Jonas and get in 8th position. So we'll have to keep a close eye on this battle for the remaining lap and a half, basically, as the gap in front is about 9.5 seconds as Chris is coming on to start the final lap of this race. 9 seconds clear of Eva Hannon in second, who is himself almost 7 seconds clear of third position, Riley. So it's been quite a lonely race for Chris this evening, showing just how dominant he's been since, well, the last about 4 or 5 weeks ago, really.
Yeah, he wasn't even qualifying in China. It was just in that race. He was so quick, and I think he just ran out of laps to catch up to Eva Hannon. He's just taking it pretty steady at this point in the race. Gazza's definitely not taking it steady, though. He's right in the slipstream of Jonas at the moment. So this battle for 8th and 9th place. We've got a yellow flag of Kingan has spawned at the hairpin, but he's got away with it for now. But Jonas is going to have to hold on for another lap. He's completely cut the chicane. That's Gazza's opportunity. The Red Bull says thank you very much. Jonas has no front wing at all now, and he is down in 9th position. He's got a big gap to the car behind, thankfully for him, because he's going to have a long way to go with no front wing. Astronaut has made a mistake. He's dropped behind Nicky as well. So quite a few changes on this final lap. Astronaut has made a mistake. That's his chance of a podium out of the window. But one man who hasn't made any mistakes today has just had a nice, clean, perfect drive for the 3rd race in a row. It's pole position and victory for Chris in the Red Bull. He wins the Canadian Grand Prix. Eva Hannon, though, will maintain the championship lead with 2nd, and it's going to be Alfa Romeo's Riley getting his and the team's first podium of the season.
As Riley picks up a 5-second time penalty across the line for an unserved penalty. Here comes Nicky, who will not claim the podium from Riley. So Riley safe on the podium and taking his best result and Alfa Romeo's best result in the podium here this season. I imagine he's going to be a very happy boy inside that helmet.
Yeah, definitely. He'll be delighted with that. We've got more yellow flags in the Sector 2. I think that was just Kingan who's got off circuit. TC finishing 6th, Nicky finishing 4th. So the Reynolds, despite a few issues in the pit stops, recovering pretty well. Dexter 7th, Gaza did get 8th place. Jonas with no front wing, reminiscent of the 1980s F1 cars there, in 9th position. I think Truth NRP must have made a mistake as well. So that's going to leave Zach clear for the 2nd race in a row to claim 10th position. He'll be happy with his start to the season in the Toro Rosso, but I think the big story of that race was involving his teammate and TC. That collision costing them both dearly, dropping TC down the field, potentially costing him a podium. We could have seen Rich get his first podium of the season as well. Yeah,
but what a result for Really, it was rather unlucky for Rich as well, who, well, definitely showed he had the pace for the podium this evening. Just not quite sure what happened there. It looked like a mix of lag and a loss of traction going into turn one. So,
yeah, indeed. Delight for the Red Bull team, though, with Chris getting his third win in a row. Eva Hannon will still have the lead in the championship, though. That second place, good enough to keep him ahead, but he'll be getting pretty nervous now at the head of the field. So the results then from round 6 in the podium tier here at One Hub at Canada. It was Chris who took the victory and gets that extra point for fastest lap in the top 10. Eva Hannon in second, with his lead now down to 8 points at the head of the championship. Riley getting his first podium of the season. Nicky recovering to fourth. Astronauti, we could have seen 2 Mercedes on the podium, but he made a couple of mistakes and dropped to 5th. TC in 6th. Dexter 7th. Gazaman in 8th. Jonas losing it on the penultimate lap to finish 9th. Zach, 4 pit stops, still managing to finish in 10th. Truth NRP just missing out on the points in 11th. Alex Lelliot 12th. Lee Hoffner 13th, Indecisive 14th, Kingan 15th, and then Catboy Key, Stevie Hart, Jess Gamey, and Rich, the retirements. And who would you say is your driver of the day, Liam?
My driver of the day has got to be Riley picking up his first podium of the season there. So, yeah, a well-deserved podium to say the least. After having to put up with such bad luck the last couple of weeks, being taken out, being caught in incidents, well, not taken out, just being caught up in so many incidents these last few weeks. To finally get that podium is going to be a massive payoff for him, so he's my driver of the day. Who would you say is yours?
Well, I went for Chris a couple of weeks ago, and I don't think I can really look past him again. Pole position, fastest lap, race victory. Keeps it nice and clean. It doesn't seem to matter what you throw at him. Singapore had crazy weather. China had crazy weather as well. I think, in fact, every single race lately seems to just be rain getting involved. And it just doesn't seem to faze him whatsoever. I think he just relaxed a bit to the end, and that's more why Eva Hannon caught him up, to be honest. His qualifying performances, I don't think I've ever seen anyone in any league I've commentated in be so dominant in qualifying sessions when they're getting it together, and that is mainly why Chris is going to be my nomination for the driver of the day. And you can start voting on them tomorrow evening. Right now, though, if you fancy watching some more One Hub racing action, it is the precision tier underway at the moment. Owen and Austin taking you through that one as always. They are just in their qualifying session now, where it is full wet conditions. Again, 4 minutes to go in that. 8:30, Alex will be jumping into the commentary box for the Pinnacle tier. Next week, we'll be back again from the Hockenheim Ring, the German Grand Prix round 7 of the championship, where we've now got Eva Hannon and Chris on 3 wins each, and the Red Bull definitely having the form. It looks as though he could close in on the championship lead and take the win at the end of the season. But for everyone who was watching, thank you so much, and a big thank you to Next Level Racing as well, who sponsor all of our streams. You can check them out in the description. But for myself and Liam, we'll see you both next time around. Good night.